Sales Engine and KPI Analytics is pleased to present why digital marketing should be half man, half machine. So during this webinar, we will explore some of the mistakes companies make when they over-rely on marketing automation, and we'll also discuss best practices of lead generation that combine marketing automation, telesales, social, and one-to-one email. To begin, I'd like to introduce you to our presenters. Mike Finoli is the co-founder and chief operating officer at Sales Engine. He oversees business operations for the company and serves as a thought leader on marketing, technology, and sales. CJ Hotmeyer is the Chief Executive Officer at KPI Analytics. CJ works with KPI's delivery teams and clients to design, implement, execute, and manage scalable demand management and service revenue engagement. With that said, I will now turn things over to CJ and Mike.
Thanks so much, Tricia, and thanks to everybody else for joining us today. So the title of this webinar is Why Digital Marketing Should Be Half Man and Half Machine. I think an awful lot of us, certainly me included, I think have gotten so wrapped up in what marketing automation could theoretically do over this past 5, 6, 7 years, I think we forgot what it should do and also what it shouldn't. And today I think many of the quote-unquote old techniques are making a comeback, largely because marketing automation is breathing new life into these things like telesales and events and even print, because it allows us to use those techniques smarter and more efficiently. Both CJ and I are technology-enabled service companies, so we have to fully be accountable to the results of our programs. And that means we don't really get to live in this theoretical world. Rather, we have to actually produce results for our clients, which means I think we have a unique perspective here from some accelerated learning from, I think, making some of these maybe over-automation mistakes. So let's take a look at what I think those are. And I put them into 3 buckets. I think the first one is developing content and then campaigns that are solely based on personas rather than pains or business challenges. And even some of the best companies in marketing today, they make mistakes using bad data. And I think the whopper of them all is thinking that you'll only pass leads that have matriculated through some complex maze of marketing automation funnel to sales, because when you do the math of converting fractions of leads through a process like that, your sales team is literally going to starve. So let's jump into this trap of personas versus pains. Got a screenshot up here. 4 years ago, I led a webinar on this exact topic where I was telling everybody, just like everybody else in this industry, I wasn't unique, telling everybody to identify your top personas, then map out their buying stages to flush out the content development needs. But there's 2 problems with this. First, when you really try to map this out into automated nurture campaigns and leverage technology and all the if-then logic that you can use, it turns out to be a lot harder than you might think to actually accurately predict the exact business issues each persona cares about. And second, even if you do, it is truly impossible to choreograph all of the buying steps for a persona because everyone's buying process and their journey is completely unique. So you've all probably seen the Rosetta Stone commercials where the interviewer asks the gentleman the question and he keeps answering with the exact same answer. Good day, my name is Brad. And so it's a funny commercial, but it really does a good job of clearly articulating the point that language tapes that were designed in a linear process weren't as effective as interactive tools because each listener, they learn at their own pace, they have their own learning style, they each have their own unique number of distractions. I think it's really exactly like our prospects, certainly in B2B buying situations, right? Maybe if you're selling inexpensive B2C goods and just trying to drive people to a shopping cart, kind of forcing the buying process and the stages and steps may be successful. But in large, complex B2B sales, I think this is a total mistake to try and determine the buyer's journey. I think it's an awful lot like the game Chutes and Ladders, where each prospect is truly going to have their own unique buying journey. So, for example, how do things start? There's some original spark, whether it was somebody else's idea or your idea, but there's a business problem that's got to be fixed, right? And the next thing that happens, we all know this, a web search, and you're looking at white papers, articles, attending webinars, reading articles, videos, go to social media and learning more. Then at some point, probably going to engage a sales rep, maybe a couple sales reps, but it's going to be on the buyer's terms. And then you're going to get some people together to start evaluating, which of these vendors is the right one to go with. Then Somebody's going to realize some capabilities they didn't previously know, and the scope is going to get a little bit bigger. Then you're going to gauge senior leadership, and they're going to reduce that scope on you. Then you're going to have some new competing initiative all of a sudden pop up. And then there's a change in leadership, and budgets are cut, right? Sound familiar? And lo and behold, this new leadership says, hey, there's a business problem that needs fixed. And so what happens? You darn near start the whole thing over again, except that new leadership has experience with vendor XYZ. So you got new competitors involved, new scope, new criteria, new faces. A new CEO comes in unexpectedly, budgets freeze, budgets are approved, and all of a sudden, boom, you get a win. I think the story here, if you think about the games of chutes and ladders where you're fast accelerating, fast declining, there's no way you could ever use software to predict this journey. The next one is what I think is an over-reliance on accurate data. Where marketers over-engineer the process and try to personalize campaigns with bad data, the results can be pretty embarrassing. So actually a very good company that sent this basically telling me, congratulations on my new Marketo implementation and how I can get the most out of it working with them. Well, not only did they know that I don't have Marketo, that they're a competitor of mine. So it'd be easy to take this one and just blame it and say, oh, database problem, they bought a bad list, or maybe they had a mail merge problem. I think the more important point here is these are the kinds of mistakes that can happen when you try to push the envelope around personalization. So pretty easy to say, yeah, we should have had some better data. But we weren't trying to be quite so nifty on all the mail merge and trying to make it seem like I'm talking just to you, you don't create the opportunities for these errors to even exist. The last thing I just want to talk about real quick, I think a mistake, and this is probably the whopper. I think both marketing and sales leaders alike have made the mistake to think that machines can nurture and qualify B2B leads. They're simply just too complex, and that simply requires an educated, experienced sales professional to do that qualification process. So if you're a sales leader, it sounds great to have a pile of qualified leads that come from marketing, but it simply ignores how buyers behave. And even if they did, the math doesn't work. So let's just take a look at what that math looks like. A company called Optify, they do a B2B marketing benchmark report. And based on the analysis of some 600 medium-sized businesses, the average number of unique monthly web visits for a mid-sized business is just under 2,000 unique visitors. And they say the average conversion rate is about 1.6% of those visitors convert into a lead. So let's say we assume that you're best in class. Let's say you got about 2,000 unique visitors a month, and you're converting 4% of them. And rather than engaging with some type of telesales or sales initiative immediately, no, we're going to let marketing automation do this. We're going to let it nurture all of these leads for us, right? So we're starting with 4% of 1,700, and then we're taking 20% of that, 20% of that, 20% of that. You're talking about a half of a lead a month. And I can't imagine any CEO, president, VP of sales, VP of marketing that would spend all the money that is required to spin up a meaningful digital marketing program that includes marketing automation to produce only a half lead a month. And I think that's probably a great transition point to you, CJ.
Thanks, Mike. So I'll start with saying that a lot of B2B marketers, they still treat the telefunction as a standalone tactic or a channel versus a function that really should be tying everything together. And the information on the right is that prevailing mindset. And I think further evidence of that are the conversations that KPI has every week with prospects that are coming to us almost as an afterthought to add tele to their strategy because they're behind on numbers, because the conversion rates through their digital marketing are not what they needed them to be, and a myriad of other reasons. But they're looking at tele as a standalone function versus that integrated piece that ties everything together. So when you think about the misuse of teleprospecting, as indicated in the bottom left, clients will call us and ask for projects to do appointment setting only, or event recruitment only, license renewals only, etc. And there's nothing wrong with these outcomes as objectives for a specific project or for a specific budget, and we do these all the time, and we're happy to have the business. However, I think the misuse or the missed opportunity is that the people, the technology, basic analytics, and know-how available today allows you to set up longer view programs that flex and adjust based on what's happening in your business and in the market. and you need a really strong telecomponent, a consistent telecomponent in your B2B marketing strategy to make this happen. So before I get into the next slide, I just want to point out that you'll hear me use the terms inside rep and teleprospector pretty much interchangeably. What you won't hear me say is telemarketer or telemarketing call center rep, because those two terms, specifically telemarketer and call center rep, they do have a stigma that has been developed over many, many years of doing B2B tele wrong. So I don't really use it for our business, and I've been to many other centers, whether it's client centers or whether it's competitive centers, where they do it right. They have the right people, they're smart, they're educated, they're experienced, they have good training programs, and you'll even see in a lot of centers, including KPIs, individuals that have carried bags, carried quotas, and worked in the field, and for whatever reason, a lot of it's just by life choice, they want to be on the inside, they want to sleep in their own bed at night. And I just wanted to point that out as we move into the next slide on the modern day inside rep. So as the slide says, they're able, they're adaptive. Another word that we like to use both in our operation and in our marketing materials is agile. They have a set of responsibilities when they show up every day for work. And with the help of automation, analytics, and CRM, they're making right time calls, if you will, a prescriptive number of calls every day with a purpose. At the same time, they can pivot and address the needs of the business that can change at any given moment. So some of the functions that these inside reps of today are pivoting to are, of course, they're setting appointments, they're qualifying leads, they're following up on longer term nurture prospects that they've had conversations with before. With the help of, again, enablement by technology and analytics, they are content concierges, if you will. We have some of the best marketing organizations in the world that we work with. They have amazing content that, of course, to Mike's earlier point in this webinar, they try to map that content to the buying process, but there's nothing better than an inside rep that just had a conversation and got the right piece of content at the right time to that prospect. And in our operation, we subscribe to a mindset of help the prospect, don't hype the product. Because of great content, we can live on that philosophy. Data hygiene, another big thing that inside reps can help with. They will verify roles, they will clean the data, they'll add contacts, remove bad data, they will consolidate accounts. All these things that analytics alone cannot get to, they're doing it real time every day as part of what their daily responsibilities are. They can jump in and do help with surveys, market surveys, or even event recruitment. Even though typically those are the kinds of things that we have an adjunct team or an additional team do, there's no reason why a skilled inside rep can't help to fill gaps where it's needed in, say, these market surveys or event recruitment. This is a big one, market intelligence. So there are companies out there that make a lot of money and companies out there that spend a lot of money on market research firms where they're calling and speaking to prospects or customers. Your inside reps are doing this every day as a byproduct of what they're doing, and if they're trained correctly and they know what they're looking for, they can bring back qualitative feedback about the market, about competition, about what's resonating in the market, etc. And to add to that one, campaign feedback. So marketers love to understand how their content's resonating, and if we were following up on leads, for example, that were as a result of a white paper download, it's good to get feedback on how that thing is converting into actionable sales opportunities. And you don't have to wait for a statistically significant sample of data to get that information. You can simply call the inside team after a few days of calling, and they'll give you at least some good anecdotal guidance on how those campaigns or how that piece of content is working. And finally, the inside team is ultimately the connection with sales in a complex B2B environment. So it's that proverbial gap between sales and marketing. The best bridge for that is an effective inside sales team or an inside teleprospecting team. And then there's this classic question of where does teleprospecting belong? Is it with marketing? Is it with sales? But regardless of how you answer that question, in the end, teleprospecting should be that main element, or at least a very effective element in helping sales get into more deals and helping marketing rationalize their spends and their campaign effectiveness. And if you can do that with teleprospecting, you're doing it right. So what I like about this slide, and candidly it's intentional, it looks like a dartboard. And we do a lot of work with a lot of clients that would love us to do nothing but hit the bullseye. But you've never seen a dartboard that has just the little red center up on the wall and nothing else around it. It wouldn't be a very fun game because it would be hard to hit it every time. There's a methodology and there's a system to everything that we do. And very simply, if you work from outside in, the typical man and machine project will start with a refined data set. And this can be scored leads from ongoing campaigns, white space accounts, customers, etc., or a combination thereof. And then through digital channels, including email marketing automation, you create the aware prospects, the next layer in. And through combined digital, analytics, and inside representation, you then create decision makers or right fit prospects that should be in your ongoing outreach efforts. Then after you reach these decision makers and have a conversation, you end up with either a nurture lead or leads that are ready and willing to talk to sales or channel partners. And of course, you also end up with no opportunities, and there's market intelligence to be gleaned from that as well. The great thing about automation and analytics is that you can do the selective outbound to what I call responders and reactors. So people that are either emailing you back saying, I want to talk, or they're going and downloading your white paper, or they're emailing you back, whatever the case might be, and using cycles available from your inside team. So if they have a lot of cycles available to do this kind of work, you do a lot of outbound. If you have limited cycles, you do as much as you can. What you want to do is eliminate the guesswork, or what I like to call suspect surfing. And we've all been through centers where reps are sitting there, clicking through records, deciding who they're going to call next. You need to eliminate that waste from the operation and queue up these calls the right amount every day to keep everybody as efficient with their time as possible. What's interesting is that you may queue up a prospect that has not responded or clicked on your link, but after leaving a voicemail, they'll take action before ever talking to you. What we also see is that a good conversation with a prospect, whether or not it becomes sales actionable or not, a lot of times results in additional people from the same company downloading your assets or viewing your assets. And in the end, these kinds of things have to be addressed in as real time as possible, and a good inside team can see these things faster than anybody and take the right action. So before I get into this next slide, which is the ideal scenario from KPI's standpoint, I'll point out an obvious fact. There is no such thing as set it and forget it. And there have been many opportunities to change focus. That may be because a client has an internal reorganization. They get divested from their parent company. They change their product focus. They change their channel strategy. They change their target markets because of something that happens in the market, such as regulatory compliance. So there are many things that will happen, and you have to be able to, again, be agile and move with those changes. However, even though they say the first thing to go in battle is the battle plan, it's always good to be part of the planning process early on. So if you look at this kind of eye chart here, my apologies for the complexity of it, the ideal scenario for us is where the inside team leadership were part of the planning process. So in this example, one of our clients, they're going after finance, HR, and IT within healthcare and manufacturing and providing the actionable leads to a specific set of channel partners. For our part, we're involved in the campaign planning, so a week or two before the launch, our team gets the campaign briefing. In this case, we're already trained on the solutions because they've been around for a few years. We develop our working call track from this training. We design our marketing cadence leveraging digital assets and content of this particular client. We use a little bit of our copywriting for the one-to-one emails, and our data ops team goes to work to assemble a data set. The best data set we can get using existing client data, both for targeting and for suppression. We use third-party sources to append this data and add to this data, such as Discover.org or Daybreak Direct. And we also have our house file. And even in some cases throughout the year, we'll get entitlement files and licensing data from this particular client so that we can go out and do projects for specific renewals, upsells, and migrations. We ensure all our systems, including the telephony, the CRM, our marketing automation, reporting systems are all working together as they should. Then we engage in what Serious Decisions calls small net fishing, which are basically fast time to market, integrated campaigns to find the low-hanging fruit, and condition the market for future opportunity. At the end of these small net fishing cycles, we continue lower touch outreach through automation. Of course, we hand off actionable sales leads back to the client for their channel partners in this case as we get them. In this particular case, we keep a specific set of prospects to continue nurturing, and we give all conditioned data back to the client for them to continue working through their own marketing automation. We then move on to the next campaign, which in this case is finance and retail. And while all this is happening, things can and do change, and opportunities arise. What you really need to be is operationally able to take on kind of more agile support functions such as event recruitment, install-based outreach, partner engagement. We've had situations with a different client where our sole job is to go get sales-ready leads, actionable leads, appointments for their sales team, but they also spent a lot of money on physical events around the nation, and they were not able to get attendees to fill up these events, and it was not sitting well with the VP of Marketing. So where else is there to go but to a trained and assembled teleprospecting team that is ready and able to pivot whenever needed? And we were able to bail them out of a events campaign that was just simply not working because they couldn't fill the seats. Bottom line is, once the machine is built, this inside teleprospecting machine, once the team is trained, assembled, and operational, adding variations to the value prop, the audience, the call to action, the focus of the deliverable from our perspective is not a big deal. So with that, I will turn it back over to Mike.
All right, so I'm going to recap on, I think, what the three areas of solution for us to focus on. The first is that it's not really possible to predict every step of a buying journey, right? If you've been around this marketing automation world for more than 5 minutes, you've seen white papers and webinars and articles on developing a content plan, right? So everybody's got the same rows. It's top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, and maybe it's an ADA model, maybe it's a waterfall. But essentially it's the same thing. It's an early stage buyer, middle stage buyer, and a late stage buyer. And so you've got your rows that are stage-based. And then the question that we really wrestled with, and I think we've landed on now, is what are the columns? Absolutely used to say that the columns used to have to be personas, because that's how you do the most effective messaging, right? I want to speak to what really keeps this person up to understand their high probability pains. And the conclusion that we came to, that is great in concept, but it just simply doesn't work when you want to try to actually use marketing automation, and here's why. So this is a real-life scenario from one of our clients where you see all the touches, and I'm not going to read every single one of these touch points, but just understand the color coding. The blue are sales touches, so a human being, some of them inside sales rep, some of them what's called the field territory rep, and the red berry, if you will, are marketing touches. So it could be email campaigns, could be content downloads, etc. The punchline is here that there are 49 touches in this string, and it is not the marketing department, it is not the sales department, it is not the vendor who prescribed these 49 touches. The 49 touches were the result of how the prospect engaged, not how we drove it. You could never choreograph this. And if you tried and you were successful on this one, that means you're going to be unsuccessful with everybody else, which means you can't overprescribe the process and all these automated nurtures look like. Rather, you need to have a framework. And what we've learned is that framework has to be pain-based, not persona-based. The next one is integrating telesales into campaigns, really into everything. So if you look at the image to the far left, you probably recognize that as one of the email invites that went out. And so one of the things that we do internally is we create a playbook for every single campaign that we do. And to the right, you'll see, campaign, it's kind of an eye chart. But it's, hey, what is the campaign, what's it about, when is it going out, what are the subject lines, what are the dates? But also, I don't know if you agree or not, but the bottom of that, what are the high probability pain points that we're going to be addressing here so that the business development reps on the phone, that they know those pain points. They know the question, and then we give them the questions to ask to mine for that pain. And it's not a script. They're going to pivot wherever the conversation leads them. For the component, if you're registered for the event, you probably got an email, a one-to-one email from Outlook, not marketing automation, and probably a phone call from one of these inside sales reps, a business development rep. They probably asked you, hey, what do you want to get out of this? We're still developing the content for the meeting, and we want to make sure we address your needs and want it to be a meaningful experience for you. So what are you hoping to get out of this? And I think that's really exactly what half man, half machine looks like, right? And it can only happen when that inside sales team is in tight coordination with marketing, knowing the editorial calendar, when our sends, when our launch dates, what's happening, when is content being published, and then including the playbook to know exactly what to say and when. So the solution number 2, you got to integrate tele into these campaigns as just part of it, just like it's just another node in a digital campaign. There's got to be a component within it. And then I think the last, this one's probably pretty obvious, you got to start with good data. You just simply use a purchase list and not had, in this case, digitally verified or maybe a phone verified components of the mail merge, we would have had that embarrassing situation that of the example I showed you earlier. So you got to have good data. Last slide, then we're going to go to Q&A. But this is what it looks like when you do this. Your first company, Texas-based company, the payroll HR services company, 70% of their pipeline is either started or nurtured by the campaigns and content that we produce. It's totaling $16 million in pipe. I talk about created versus nurture. This chicken and the egg thing that goes on, right? Who gets credit for the lead, marketing or sales? And I think that's just that's a 1990s mentality, because your prospect, your buyer, they don't think that, oh, I am now engaged with the marketing department and I am now engaged with the sales department. And if you create those walls internally, your prospect's going to feel those same walls, right? So we do track, is there verified digital fingerprint, right? Did somebody click on something, did they download something, did they watch something before the create date of an opportunity in CRM? So we'll call that marketing sourced. And then if the create date of the opportunity comes before marketing activity, means, hey, sales guy probably found it and started it, but guess what? Once they started, that prospect started consuming marketing content, right? And started engaging in the marketing channels. And then the third bucket is sales source, no marketing activity. And so for the first two buckets, either marketing sourced it or marketing influenced it, 70% of the entire pipe totaling $16 million. Their IT company in Virginia, 76% of the pipeline. Data encryption company in New Jersey, 59-60% of the pipeline. This is what success looks like when you have a meaningful library of content using marketing automation, telesales, the machine in combination with the man.